Welcome to Health Tech Talk. This is where business, healthcare, and technology collide. Our host, Ben Chodor, interviews healthcare innovators and industry titans who are striving to make the world healthier with bleeding-edge human ingenuity. You'll hear it all on Health Tech Talk. Now, here's your host, Ben Chodor.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to Health Tech Talk Live. This is where business and healthcare and technology collide. I'm Ben Chodor. I'm your host. We're on WGST 640 and the iHeartRadio network. So you're listening to us anywhere and everywhere, and I can't think of a better guest to kick off this segment with than Jill Gilbert. Jill is not only an extreme innovator, but after last week's CES conference, her Digital Health Summit, which takes place at the CES conference, rocked. I think on every newscast that I heard everywhere, Jill, the first thing that came up was wearables, health tech, and then second was like driverless cars, drones, and everything else. So welcome to the show. It's an honor to have you. You must be so tired and winded. What was the last week like for you?
Insanity. It's always kind of insane. I mean, I had a little fly in the ointment this year with having a baby 4 months before the show.
Wow.
But that's mostly, I think, why I'm so exhausted. But at the same time, there was just so many last-minute requests for different types of interviews, and the show has grown tremendously. So we couldn't be happier. Exhausted, but happy.
All right. So, Jill, before we jump into CES, because there's so many things I want to ask you about CES, tell me a little about yourself and your background, because I read your bio, and it's like you have an extremely eclectic bio, right? So you're an entrepreneur, you were in movies and films, and now digital health and technology. Tell me a little about yourself, and how did you get into the space?
I don't think anyone would ever say, how did I plan this? Because there was definitely no planning involved. I was in the film business for about 15 years on the film producing side of the business. And then when I decided to actually try to get a life and have more normal lifestyle, I moved to San Francisco and started a company called Gilbert Guide. My dad is an oncologist, radiation oncologist, and he and my mom built a cancer center.
Wow.
And we created a company to kind of serve the senior market called Gilbert Guide. And that after 6 years, we sold the company to Caring.com. Mm-hmm. And literally the day after I left that company, I got approached to say, can you help us build Digital Health Summit at the Consumer Electronics Show? And I was asked by Robin Raskin at Living Digital Times, who kind of oversees all of these different lifestyle areas at CES. So I would say my background lent itself to production, but also my interest in sort of services for the senior market, like telehealth and telemedicine. They saw an alliance.
Well, Jill, I got to add in, I think your background is one of the keys why your area of the conference was so rocking, because you understand the value of production and the value of the hype, because you come from that industry. So that was pretty amazing. And so when you created Digital Health Summit, what was the first year like at CES? And what was the biggest difference between first year and this year? And then let's jump into this year.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I actually came in after the first summit. The first summit was a half-day summit. And obviously they had separated it out of an area called Silver Summit and created its own half-day. And then the year that I came in, it was like, okay, we're going to set aside 1 day for Digital Health Summit. It's a free conference. And it was a struggle, I will tell you. Everyone looked at CES as this sort of, the word that comes to mind is Disneyland. The Disneyland of, consumer electronics and TVs and tablets and blah, 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 all the different things that come out of the show.
It's geeks nirvana. It's heaven.
Oh, yeah. It does. It gives you, for those, any techie gets goosebumps when they walk through the door. So it's definitely that show. But to convince medical, healthcare, serious people to come talk about the important issues at CES was a huge struggle. No question about it.
Right.
Huge struggle. So And after the first show, we knew it was a success because I think we had 1,400 people show up for a room that held 250 people. And so we knew that the quality of the speakers, we brought in Colonel Ron Poropatich as our keynote. We knew that was, it was key to bring in the quality level speakers to create a great discussion. And it's taken 6 years now total to get us where, people are calling us, and serious people, the CIOs of big, huge medical centers are calling saying, how do we participate? What do we do?
Look at some of the companies that were there. And also, you had Dr. Phil speak this year. I mean, what a turnaround, right? I mean, it's here. It is. I don't think CES can have a conference without what you guys are doing now. What are some of your biggest takeaways from this year? Like, if someone came to you and go, all right, Jill, give me 3 or 4 tips from the show. What did you walk away from your section of the show? What did you really walk away with?
Well, the reality is that it's still growing, that there's still lots of room for growth. I would say that there are still people, figuring out, major business models, how to disseminate data properly to the right people and what data is valuable. I think that those are still, there's big questions. It was the first year we brought pharma in from 2 big discussions at CES. I mean, that alone, to me, was a huge advancement. In prior years, my discussions with them centered around, what digital health advancements do you have? And it was, have you seen our new website? Now they're becoming a major player in what we call digital health, which is, tracking with biometric sensors and different types of sensors for clinical trials and medication monitoring and all these different things.
So Jill, can I interrupt? So it's not just about, so it's not wearables, just Fitbit tracking my pedometer steps. So we're finally come of age where my wearable is doing something in healthcare, whether it's the institutions, whether it's the WebMDs, whether it's the Mercks and the Novartises, the pharmaceutical companies, and the payers. It's all coming together.
It's a really good point. It is called the Consumer Electronics Show, but Digital Health Summit really addresses both. The consumer, aka the patient, right, is one part of this, but the key big part of this is the physician, the people that are analyzing data, that are, treating us. And so while there's the wellness side to things that you're talking about, you mentioned Fitbit, but, there's a lot of other players in the space. The eye health people, people who are monitoring lots of different things, Massimo, et cetera.
Right. So just to interrupt, so when you talk about eye health, just so our audience at home knows, and everyone knows that we're listening at iHeartRadio, WGST 640, the iHome is really the connected house, right? So it's everything connected. Can you explain a little bit about the iHome?
It's iHealth.
iHealth.
So iHealth Lab is developing the connected scales, the connected blood pressure monitors, the connected diabetic blood glucose meters. All of these things that are kind of coming into play all work together you talk about the connected home. It's the connected life.
Right.
And I think that kind of looking at these companies that are bringing different offerings, a lot of them do the same things. They just do it differently. Just like when you shop for a television, you look for different features. So there's a lot of new competition, a lot of high design, but they're communicating. Consumers are buying products themselves. This is not just a prescription anymore.
So Jill, we're running into the end of our first segment before we take a commercial break, and you're listening to Health Tech Talk, and with me is Jill Gilbert, and we're really excited. And when we come back from this break, we are going to ask you for some specific products and also talk about some other cool things that are going on. And just so everyone knows, you're listening to Health Tech Talk. You're on WGST 640.
Bloomberg. The First Word with Ken Pruitt. Monday morning at 5 on Talk Radio 640 WGST.
Flo from Progressive here, riding along with Paul, who owns his own plumbing company.
Plumbing, heating, and gas company.
Can't just be one thing. That's why Progressive offers commercial auto insurance that saves you money with discounts like Safe Driver, Business Experience, and Paid in Full. It's also why I am learning to whistle. Here, I made this for you.
You whittled me a toilet? I love it. Thanks, Flo.
It's a bird.
Oh.
Discounts to save your business money. Visit Progressive.com to learn more. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Hey, this is Mara Davis, and right here on 640 WGST, we talk food 11 to 12. Don't miss us every Saturday, 11 to 12 on 640 WGST.
Protect your retirement with finance expert David Nicholas every Saturday and Sunday at 10 on 640 WGST.
We at March of Dimes know all too well that prematurity is a serious problem many women can't avoid. But did you know that earlier this decade, more births were being scheduled for non-medical reasons? Medical experts learned this caused problems for both moms and babies. But thanks to our Healthy Babies Are Worth the Wait awareness efforts, early elective deliveries dropped significantly from 2010 to 2013. This is great news for moms and babies.
You, my friend, have connections in the government. Yes, you. USA.gov, the official source for government information on thousands of topics. And like any good connection, there's no telling where it can take you. Why, one day you're getting student loan information. Next thing you know, you need job hunting tips. Today's road construction info could have you searching for telecommuting ideas tomorrow. The more you use USA.gov, the more uses you'll find for it. Passport applications, for example. They've been known to lead to a sudden interest in travel advisories. Our new mobile apps will even update you on the go. So whether you have information to get or ideas to give your government, check out USA.gov. Who knows? Lottery results today could lead to retirement planning tomorrow. USA.gov. With the right connections, there's no telling where you can go.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Join me weekday mornings at 7 for America's First News on Talk Radio 640 WGST.
Welcome back. I'm Ben Chodor, and you're listening to WGST 640 on the iHeart Radio Network, streaming globally. We're broadcasting everywhere, which is the perfect lead into my guest, who's still with us, Jill Gilbert of the Digital Health Summit. Jill was at CES last week, and they had a huge presence at CES. In fact, I felt like the entire conference was about digital health and everything you guys are doing. So you guys rocked it there. And we left off talking about the connected health. Can you tell me like 2 or 3 products that you sort of were blown away by?
Well, there's no question that what's going on in the sensor space is probably the most exciting thing for someone like me, because I think passive monitoring is the wave of digital health. That's just, any time that a consumer or a patient doesn't have to do something and actually can just passively monitor something all day long is great. Like, you don't even have to put on a wristwatch. So I do believe that what MC10 is doing, what Qualcomm Life is doing, what Linear Dimensions is doing, all these different companies that happen to be there, what we're seeing is huge developments in sensor passive monitoring. So to me, that is the biggest development in healthcare. It's getting more and more adopted into other areas in healthcare, like pharma, I just mentioned, right, and what's going on with clinical trials and those types of areas.
So let me ask you a question. I'm going to change for a little bit. One of the other things that you were working with at CES was robots on the runway. Okay, really intriguing to me. I think it's going to be really intriguing to the Health Tech Talk audience that's listening nationally and globally. What was Robots on the Runway?
So Robots on the Runway, it actually got created a couple years ago when I was sitting in the room thinking, how do we showcase at CES? Because you have to remember, CES is, a sexier show. How do we bring to light the latest developments in robotics? And, my mind starts wandering, and I think, let's put them on a runway show. And so it kind of developed that way. And it was a really interesting, because we did it the first year, which was, 2014. A year ago, January was our first show. And we made it concert style almost, where you had this, we combined music and story to kind of tell the robot story of what they do and put it together all on a stage.
And Jill, these are all kind of robots? These are everything from like the robot vacuum to robot dogs, anything that's robotic?
Anything that's robotic. While we think it's really important to highlight the healthcare stuff, because to me that is personally exciting, but it was a really nice way to kind of bring the section, the whole umbrella that is robotics, together at CES in a showcase. And so this year, unfortunately, 2015, due to the fact of, like I said, I had a baby, we decided to, if I couldn't do it 100%, we weren't going to do it, but it's coming back. So it was the one thing that I had to put on hold this year for myself.
Oh, so we can't wait for CES 2016 then?
No question about it. As a matter of fact, we were laughing at how many people were reaching out to us saying, where's Robots on the Runway this year? I was like, wow, it made a great impact. So we were thrilled. And it will, and we're even thinking of doing it, combining it somehow in our summer summit this June. So,
which would be really cool. And and just so everyone knows, you're listening to Health Tech Talk. We're on the iHeartRadio network. I want to send out a special thanks to 1-800-PR for all their help in booking guests and helping put this show together. So shout out to you guys. Hey, Jill, I want to do a quick segue to Everyday Awards, the Everyday Awards for Innovation in Health, right? So
Everyday Health Awards.
Everyday Health Awards. Can you tell us a little about it? Because I was looking at some of the judges and some of the awards, and I thought this was really cool. I kept on saying to myself, there are Webby Awards, there are Golden Globes, which were just on, but what are we going to do about this space? And it looks like you teamed up with an amazing organization that had great judges. Yeah. What were some of the categories, and what was the awards all about?
So the Everyday Health Awards was something that 2 years ago we teamed up with Everyday Health, who is an online portal. They're a leader in healthcare information, and so they came, and their interest was really, how do we showcase innovation in healthcare? And of course, no better place than CES. And no better place than Digital Health Summit. So we created these categories, everything from personal health to chronic condition management. This year we had a new category in the pet health area. But we also, recognized student innovation and healthy aging, so, things that are helping the senior population.
So what were some of the winners?
Mm-hmm.
Like, give me an example of who won some awards.
Well, so one thing your listeners have to go check out is what ThingFit is doing. ThingFit is bringing music and music therapy to seniors, and it is beyond. I'm not going to say much more about it other than it is so worth spending time on that website to go check it out.
So Jill, it's not an app. It's more than an app.
It's more than an app. Absolutely. Their therapy. Music therapy, it actually brought tears to my eyes watching the video of how music is bringing to life people that have lost all communication skills. And,
oh, my God. That's awesome.
It's awesome. And for our show to be able to recognize that, and Everyday Health was so thrilled with the results. So they were one of the companies that were a standout. We had a very innovative new temperature monitor called STEMP that got recognized. What were some of the other ones?
What about pet health? What one for pet health?
The pet health was LifeLearn Sophie. And LifeLearn Sophie is something that is being offered by a lot of pet companies right now. I'm sorry, veterinarians. And so one of the things that we were excited about was we're starting to see pet trackers and things like that, but people are taking it so beyond what is a wearable, right? Even pet wearables, right? They're saying, how are there therapies and digital, technology therapies that we can enhance people's lives with their pets? So LifeLearn Sophie was definitely one of those.
Anything win that's associates with you having a baby? Any baby products? Any children products?
I really would like to add that to a category next year and add that as a category. I so wanted this year to do a session on baby health technology. Right. And because we just, our sessions get full really fast. So believe it or not, 2 days of sessions and we still run out of time to do everything we want. So next year I'm hoping to team with some of these people that are, it's not just about listening to your baby's heartbeat at home. There's actually tracking mechanisms that help a new mom like myself feel more at ease. So you will see that next year.
Are you addicted 100%. To tracking your newborn?
No, I'm not, because I think you have to be careful not to over worry yourself. Right. I think there is kind of an over obsession. There's an obsession sometimes that you tune in. I did buy a drop cam this year. Right. That's an example of tracking. It's a different kind of tracking, but I try to be careful and not overdo it, because I think there would be too much anxiety involved.
I think it causes a lot of anxiety. All the tracking. It's like, my kids are older, but my wife, if my kids don't text them back right away, I mean, that's the tracker they have is a cell phone. She's convinced something terrible happened to them in college. So it actually, in some ways, it relieves anxiety because you know where they are, but it actually creates additional anxiety in different ways. Since I only have 4 minutes of time and I have so many questions to ask, I want to jump to my next one. So, hey, a lot of our listeners are business people and entrepreneurs, investors, and you're listening to the Health Tech Talk live show, and we're on WGST 640 on the iHeartRadio network globally. And what advice would you give to someone who comes up with an idea? Is the market saturated? Is there room for innovation? Does a new company have a chance?
I think, well, the answer is yes, of course. I don't want to say of course, but yes, there's definite room for innovation. And I think the hard part now is saying, where are the holes in the market? And do we create those alone? Do we team up with people? How do we do this? It's not just creating, the new temperature monitor, right? That alone is not going to make you a star. That's not going to make you a successful company. Ultimately, you have to figure out your place in the market. It is essential that you team up with the right people to understand reimbursement and to understand regulation. I believe the biggest money to be made is, this is just
opinion.
This is just my opinion. Is in the healthcare, is in the real healthcare payer space. The people that are dealing with reimbursements in that area. So what are the opportunities? And if you don't work with we work with a company called Zymedica.
Yep.
Zymedica knows the regulation space very, very well. They understand the reimbursement space very, very well. If you're a young company, if you don't work with a company like that really has done it over and over again, is continually learning from their clients, you may miss huge opportunity. You may spend all your loot and realize, what did we just do?
So it's about partnering, right? It's come up with ideas, look for partners. The industry has matured to a point that there's opportunities, and from big farmers to investors to everyone is looking for ideas. And since I only have about a minute left of your time, I have two more questions for you. First question is, tell me about the summer program that you run, and where is it going to be? Because it's not just once a year at CES.
Right. So our summer summit is solely focused on helping digital health businesses do better. It's a little bit of a different focus than CES, which is, about the latest and the greatest. So we really focus on that, on relationships, on building partnerships and relationships. So that takes place this June. I think it's being held on the 18th this year.
Great.
We have to regroup in San Francisco.
Awesome. And my last question for you, if I sat you down in 5 years from now, what's the number one takeaway we're going to have in 2020 from CES?
That technology worked to help lower healthcare costs, period, and that hundreds of thousands of lives were saved.
I can't think... Oh, go on. Yeah. What's the last one?
No, and that we were able to highlight some of the biggest highlights of the year.
Awesome. And Jill, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. This was awesome. Can't wait to get you on the show again. And you are listening to Health Tech Talk live on WGST 640 on the iHeartRadio network, and we'll be back